Welcome to this video. Now, many of us spent a long time discovering that the JETBOIL flash system was a one-trick pony, and I've still got some carbonised food at the bottom of this where foolishly I tried to cook something other than H2O inside of this, but this served me well for many years before I moved on to a more versatile system. And you know, I love now the remote canister system, right, like the SOTO FUSION TREk, and something caught my eye recently that I definitely thought was more than a one-trick pony. This is the Fire Maple Mars radiant stove system, and this has got multiple uses and proves to be quite versatile. And in this video I'm going to take you through some of the features of the system that I filmed on a recent camp, and on there I'm going to show you how it can work as a tent heater, and certainly in a large Lavo tent it heated up the whole area by around 5 degrees centigrade. And then I'm going to bring you back to this tabletop. I'm going to compare it to the old JETBOIL. I'm going to take you through some more features of the Fire Maple Mars radiant stove, and I'm going to compare it to my recent test winner, the SOTO FUSION TREk. And to make it fair, for boil times I'm going to use a Primus Etta heat exchanger pan, which of course these two systems also have. And I'm going to do my simmer test to show how the spread of heat is. So tonight I'm trying out for the first time the Fire Maple Mars all-in-one cook system. So it's got a wee mesh bag on the outside and a bit of a cosy on the outside. It's quite tight and a really good fit. And of course this is a heat exchange. Now there's a cup inside here as well. I think it's really worth putting that inside, because if you just put the burner at the bottom it can scratch the anodized aluminium inside, so definitely worth using that. But you know what I think this will be really good for winter cooking like this, is to put your gas canister inside, and that'll keep it off the ground. Now just putting a tiny bit of warm water or even a heat pad inside there will make a big difference to the performance of the gas in cold weather. So there's no piezo ignition on this. Wait for the gas to come through. And there we go, you can see the gas just glowing on the top there. And at first the metal grate at the top will start to glow, and then the alloy underneath will start to glow, and that gives off radiant heat, so it works by thermal radiation and infrared, which you can't see. Now incidentally, this glowing heat here, where an object starts to glow or incandesce, it's called the Draper point, I believe, and that happens at 525 degrees centigrade. So needless to say, that's going to be giving off quite a lot of heat there. Measure it inside so you can get your amount of water right, and what I'm going to do is put in half a litre of water there. That's glowing lovely now. That's it, bubbling like crazy. About 155 that was before I caught it. Stopwatch on 157. So that's super fast. Woo! If you recall, the SOTO Stormbreaker on liquid fuel was around that when it was a little bit colder, but I'm delighted with that. I think that's really quick. But what we're going to do now, I've got some winter gas, and we're going to see what kind of temperature we can get up in here. And if you're concerned, don't worry, I've just invested in a portable carbon monoxide meter. We're all cozy. Right, we've got that going full belt now, and there's a noticeable increase in the temperature here. So what's that thermometer say just there?
Pressure what?
Yeah.
5.6.
5.6 degrees centigrade it's risen to. So if you look at the carbon monoxide monitor up there, it is at 3 parts per million. We've got it quite well ventilated. There's a vent up there. I've got the 2 vents open at the bottom, and so far it's not making any change. So we've used this, what are these? 250 gram canister? 227, aren't they? How long have we had that going then, would you say?
3 hours?
Yeah, I would say 3 hours, and it's kept it about 5 or 6 degrees warmer in here. It's done really well. On with the comparison. Now, the JETBOIL weighs 380 grams, which is the same as the updated recent version, 375 grams. The Fire Maple is pretty heavy at 675. You can probably see it's a bigger capacity. And the SOTO with pan is a heat exchange system, is somewhere in the middle at 463. So quite a difference in weight between the Fire Maple and the Mars. Right, let's light these up and I'll show you the difference in burn pattern. Oh God. Whoa, right, okay. Happy days, that's that lit. There's the Fire Maple, and there's the SOTO. So I hope you can see that all right, the difference in flame patterns. Of course, the JETBOIL has got this spot-like thing. You can see the Fire Maple Radiant has got this lovely glow from the ferrous nickel alloy and the gauze on top. And then again, somewhere in between the two, we've got the SOTO Fusion TREk with its dozens and dozens of little tiny micro flames. Now, this is not particularly a fair test because I know the output of the JETBOIL nowadays is double this. I think this is about 4,000 BTU. In the middle here is 7,160 BTU, and the SOTO is 11,000 BTU. So we've got an increase in power. But let's turn these off and we'll get boiling some water. They've been on for the same amount of time there, so we would have used the same amount of gas up. And incidentally, if you can hear a lot of noise, because there's a UK categorised storm raging outside, so I apologise if there's a little bit of a racket. Right, that's started with the JETBOIL. It's pretty quiet actually. I seem to remember it being noisy back in the day. Maybe all my stoves have got noisier. I'm sure the new one's probably a little bit noisier again. But I used this for a long time. There was life before YouTube that you see now. I remember doing the African tailway with this years ago with my big son, and that was a great trip. And I remember him complaining bitterly about the weight of his rucksack. So halfway through the second day, I gave him my rucksack and he stopped complaining straight away. Handed my rucksack back to me and kept quiet after that. 2 minutes 51. That was slow compared to modern stoves. Whoosh. Right, on with the Fire Maple Mars Radiant. And one benefit that you would have seen on this, on the recent camp, is you do get a lovely bit of heat from it. And incidentally, something that needs pointing out, both of the JETBOIL system and the Mars Radiant have a system by where you can use other pans, and we'll see that later. Right, the water's properly cooled down. I've got some fresh cold water, restarted the stove, Let's try that again. That's boiling at 148. It's a bit of a struggle to fit this on because I've managed to melt this before. Lightning fast. That's boiling there now at 126. Wow. Really quick. So pretty similar on gas consumption. Now they all used around 13 grams of gas with the little pre-light and the flame demo, and then boiling 500 millilitres of water. Of course, the key thing was with boil times, with the SOTO taking 126, the Fire Maple 2 minutes 15, and the JETBOIL 2 minutes 51. And if you think about it, the BTU is the output power, so the one with more power in this proportionally shorter time, but in that shorter time it uses kind of like more gas. So that can be a measure of efficiency sometimes if it uses less gas for a boil, but in this case it's just been about time. JETBOIL on simmer is about 250 ml of water here in this Primus large skillet, and as you can clearly see, this is why it welds everything to the bottom. There's just one little tiny hot spot in the middle there. I'm going to be very interested to see what the Fire Maple one's like on this same test. So here we go with the Fire Maple Mars Radiant, and like the JETBOIL, it's got this little cradle on the top to enable you to use a conventional pan, and it's really quite stable. So straight away I think you'll see there we've got a large spread of heat, and that's been one of the biggest I've seen in any of my tests, a big ring there. And I think this shows this is going to be a really good stove for kind of like general cooking and simmering. Let's try and get that down onto a low simmer. I think the slight problem with this Radiant style stove is it's a little bit hard to control since you physically can't see the flame. Yeah, that's a gentle simmer, and of all the stoves I've been doing that with recently, that's the lowest nice even spread pretty much that I've done. Let's compare that to the previous best, the SOTO Fusion TREk. Wow, I'm surprised. I think with that big flame, that's better again. Let's get that right down. See how low we can go. Thing is, if you go too low, you won't get the flame spread across the bottom. So I think it's fair to say there, the Fire Maple Mars Radiant has the bigger spread of heat on a low simmer, but the SOTO has a bigger spread of flame across a wider area when it's on high. So if simmering is your thing and a slow wide cook, then the Fire Maple Mars Radiant has it, but with the caveat that it's kind of like a tiny bit harder to control and to tell when it's about to go out. Good. So I hope you've enjoyed yet another little stove nerd out. I think this is a great cook system. It's certainly really high quality. It's reasonably kind of like compact, and I think we've demonstrated that you actually can cook on it okay. So the slight negatives are that the weight, really. It's a fairly kind of like heavy stove compared to some, and it's somewhat bulky. I say compact bulky, but it all kind of like fits inside there. It's a self-contained unit, and I think it's around £114 currently on Amazon. It represents fairly good value for money, but I think if you really want that feature, the trick up its sleeve that makes it worth buying is for the radiant heat. So if you want to keep some gas aside to warm a confined space, with the caveat that you do need some safety features, well ventilated, a carbon monoxide monitor, and I did demonstrate that in the last video on the camp, that you can actually use this as a source of heat as well. So it makes it super versatile. You've got that contained system, you can cook on it with a wide pan, or you can just use a pretty efficient, it'll have to come off, pretty efficient heat exchange system. What I haven't tested yet on this is the windproof qualities of it. Now we know that wind is a great robber of heat. Anything blown across there just kind of takes it away, and this should be absolutely excellent for doing that. And I'm hoping in the future I'll be able to test that exact same thing against a MSR top of the range system, which this is actually based on. So subscribe to Fellman Dave and keep an eye on my stove playlist. Thanks for watching.